The apparent purposelessness of the balloon was vexing, as was the fact that it was there at all. Had we painted in great letters, "Laboratory tests prove," or 18% more effective on the sides of the balloon, this difficulty would have been circumvented. But I could not bear to do so. On the whole, these officers were remarkably tolerant, considering the dimensions of the anomaly, this tolerance being the result of, first, secret tests conducted by night that convinced them that little or nothing could be done in the way of removing or destroying the balloon, and secondly, a public warmth that arose, not uncoloured by touches of the aforementioned hostility, toward the balloon from ordinary citizens. As a single balloon must stand for a lifetime of thinking about balloons, so each citizen expressed, in the attitude he chose, a complex of attitudes. One man might consider that the balloon had to do with the notion sullied, as in the sentence, "The big balloon sullied the otherwise clear and radiant Manhattan sky." That is, the balloon was, in this man's view, an imposture, something inferior to the sky that had formerly been there, something interposed between the people and their sky. But in fact it was January. The sky was dark and ugly. It was not a sky you could look up into, lying on your back in the street, with pleasure, unless pleasure, for you, proceeded from having been threatened, from having been misused. And the underside of the balloon was a pleasure to look up into. We had seen to that, muted greys and browns for the most part, contrasted with walnut and soft forgotten yellows. And so, while this man was thinking sullied, still there was an admixture of pleasurable cognition in his thinking, struggling with the original perception. Another man, on the other hand, might view the balloon as if it were part of a system of unanticipated rewards, as when one's employer walks in and says, "Here, Henry, take this package of money I've wrapped up for you, because we've been doing so well in business here, and I admire the way you bruise the tulips, without which bruising your department would not be a success, or at least not the success that it is." For this man the balloon might be a brilliantly heroic, muscle and pluck experience, even if an experience poorly understood. Another man might say, without the example of, it is doubtful that, would exist today in its present form, and find many to agree with him, or to argue with him. Ideas of bloat and float were introduced, as well as concepts of dream and responsibility. Others engaged in remarkably detailed fantasies, having to do with a wish either to lose themselves in the balloon, or to engorge it. The private character of these wishes, of their origins, deeply buried and unknown, was such that they were not much spoken of. Yet there is evidence that they were widespread. It was also argued that what was important was what you felt when you stood under the balloon. Some people claimed that they felt sheltered, warmed, as never before, while enemies of the balloon felt, or reported feeling, constrained, a heavy feeling. Critical opinion was divided. Monstrous pourings, harp, certain contrasts with darker portions, inner joy, large square corners, conservative eclecticism that has so far governed modern balloon design, abnormal vigor, warm, soft, lazy passages. Has unity been sacrificed for sprawling quality? Quelle catastrophe! Munching. People began, in a curious way, to locate themselves in relation to aspects of the balloon. I'll be at that place where it dips down into 47th Street almost to the sidewalk, near the Alamo Chili House. Or, why don't we go stand on top and take the air, and maybe walk about a bit where it forms a tight curving line with the facade of the Gallery of Modern Art? Marginal intersections offered entrances within a given time duration, as well as warm, soft, lazy passages in which— but it is wrong to speak of marginal intersections. Each intersection was crucial. None could be ignored, as if, walking there, you might not find someone capable of turning your attention, in a flash, from old exercises to new exercises, risks and escalations. Each intersection was crucial. Meeting of balloon and building, meeting of balloon and man, meeting of balloon and balloon. It was suggested that what was admired about the balloon was finally this, that it was not limited or defined. Sometimes a bulge, blister, or subsection would carry all the way east to the river on its own initiative, in the manner of an army's movements on a map, as seen in a headquarters remote from the fighting. Then that part would be, as it were, thrown back again, or would withdraw into new dispositions. The next morning that part would have made another sortie, or disappeared altogether. This ability of the balloon to shift its shape, to change, was very pleasing, especially to people whose lives were rather rigidly patterned, persons whom change, although desired, was not available. The balloon, for the 22 days of its existence, offered the possibility, in its randomness, of mislocation of the self, in contradistinction to the grid of precise rectangular pathways under our feet. The amount of specialized training currently needed, and the consequent desirability of long-term commitments, has been occasioned by the steadily growing importance of complex machinery in virtually all kinds of operations. As this tendency increases, more and more people will turn, in bewildered inadequacy, to solutions for which the balloon may stand as a prototype or rough draft. I met you under the balloon, on the occasion of your return from Norway. You asked if it was mine. I said it was. The balloon, I said, is a spontaneous autobiographical disclosure, having to do with the unease I felt at your absence, and with